My talk title is Flow, Flow, Flow Your Boat. Subtitle, Trust is Not a Dream. So I'm going to look at how trust has shown up in my life and some of the things that have happened to me and maybe quote a few people along the way. But first, I love opening with a joke, so here's my joke for you. It's about two guys on a Sunday afternoon, and they're looking for something to do. One of them has a little small airplane, little two-seater airplane, so they decide they're just going to take it out over the ocean for a while and just have some fun. It's about an hour into their trip. They're about an hour out, and suddenly they have engine trouble, and they have to find this little strip of land in the middle of nowhere to land on out in the ocean. And on the way down, they discover the radio's broken. They can't even call for help. So they get safely on this little beach, this little strip of nothing out in the middle of nowhere, and they finally get out of the plane, and they're standing on this little beach, and one guy is really nervous about the whole thing, and the other guy is super calm. So the first guy says, "Oh my God, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? The radio's broken. We can't call for help." And the other guy just says, "Well, just relax, just trust. I'm sure it's going to all work out." "What do you mean? We have no food, we have no water?" "Well, just relax, just trust. It's going to be fine." "Well, what do you mean? Why is it going to be fine?" He says, "Well, what you may not know about me is back home, my investments are doing really well. I'm bringing in about $10,000 a week. Who cares? We need a radio. What are you talking about?" So just relax. Just listen to me. I bring in about $10,000 a week, and I tithe 10% of that to my Unity Church. And I know my minister will find me. Trust. Well, I want to tell you a story that's happened to me. It also involves airplanes. I've been traveling a lot in this career that I conjured up in the early 80s, and as things kind of flowed, a lot of my trips have been to Italy to sing for conferences up in Lake Como and in Assisi and down in Sicily, and so it's kind of given me this great experience on somebody else's dime to get to see Italy a lot of times. And this happened when I was singing for a 4-day intensive down in Sicily, and it was time the 4 days were up. It was time to settle up with the organizer and receive my fee, and I was submitting my expenses like I always did. It was $90 in expenses, so I'd submitted those. And she said, "Well, we're not going to pay that anymore. We're not going to pay your miscellaneous expenses." And my stomach kind of made a little tiny knot, and I thought, that doesn't feel fair. What just changed? But I was about to say something, but a voice in my head just said, "Let it go. Just let it go. There's a bigger plan afoot. You're always covered. Let it go." So I did. I didn't say anything, just thanked her very much, received my fee, had to get from Sicily to the Rome airport, short flight, change terminals, and get in line for my boarding pass on the long 9-hour flight back to the U.S. So I get to that second, get in line for my second flight, and there are about 6 people in front of me, or I'm sixth in line, and it's a little bit of a hubbub at the gate, but I'm there 45 minutes before departure. I should be fine. Now, what's also part of the story is that I've flown so much with American Airlines that I was able to arrange ahead of time to have a fancy seat for my flight, a seat in business class. I knew it for months ahead, looking forward to that. So 45 minutes before departure, 10 minutes passes, I'm still sixth in line. This line's not moving. 10 more minutes pass, now I'm fifth in line. I wish this would hurry up. I want to make sure everything flows nicely. Finally get to talk to the gate agent at the time of departure, and she says, "I'm sorry, sir, but your business class seat is no longer available." Again, my stomach, "But I was in line for 45. "Sorry, there's nothing we can do. If you must have a business class seat, maybe there'll be one on tomorrow's flight or the next day." I'm not going to wait in the airport for 2 days to do that. But then she said, "However, if you'd be willing to go on this flight, we do have a seat for you, an aisle seat in coach. And if you'd be willing to take that, American Airlines will compensate you with flight vouchers for future flights on American in the amount of $3,000. And I looked down at my feet and shuffled, and I said, "Well, I guess that would be okay." It's fine. And I had a great flight. ran into somebody I wouldn't run into, I hadn't seen in 5 years, had a great conversation. About an hour into that flight, it dawned on me what had happened that day. Earlier, I let go of $90, and I heard the voice that said, there's a bigger plan afoot, you're always covered, and just let it go. And a few hours later, I let go of 90 over here. I'm catching $3,000 over here. And, most churches don't fly me. If I'm doing a tour to another part of the country, that comes out of my pocket. So here's the universe saying, here's some tickets. Go to some churches. It's amazing. And I think it involved, I think you have to start with trust. Have you heard of the principle of, are you squeezing the garden hose or are you letting it flow? And I have to wonder, what if I just squeezed that garden hose with that first interaction about the $90? I wonder if the other thing would have happened. It's like, what world are you living in, Charlie? And there's a great quote in A Course in Miracles. The cost of giving is receiving. What you're giving out is what you're going to receive. It's a simple principle, but you kind of pay for it if you're giving out stuff that's squeezing the hose. So, what world are we choosing to live in? Trust is a great world to live in. Trust would settle every problem now. Another great quote from A Course in Miracles. Isn't that a good one? Trust, simple one-liner. Put it on your dashboard. Put it on your mirror. Trust would settle every problem now. Can we say that together? Trust would settle every problem now. Let's do it again. Trust would settle every problem now. I've lived with that for decades, that phrase, and it was just a couple of years ago I noticed, there's another layer to that. And I realized why it works. You know what it is? As soon as you trust, it's not a problem. Do you see how it's just turning that key, just changing that perspective? As soon as you trust, it's not a problem. Then you can say, there's a bigger plan afoot, I'm always covered, let it go. Trust would settle every problem now. I mentioned Alan Cohen earlier, I think, and he's a buddy of mine, a wonderful author and speaker. He kind of came on the scene in the 80s. He wrote a book called The Dragon Doesn't Live Here Anymore. Has anyone heard of that book? It's been a while. He also, the book title he wrote, another one, Joy is My Compass. That was the book title. I used to tour with him where he would speak and I would support his workshops and talks with music. I remember from the stage, he did this cool thing. He invited everyone in the audience, can you curl up your thumb and forefinger really tight, just look through a little pinprick around the room. Would you do this with me right now? Just kind of look around. And as we were doing this, he said, out of all the things that are happening in life, this is about how much you can see. And then he says, unfurl your fingers. And he said, this is how much God sees. And the joke we're playing on ourselves, we're trying to control everything based on this much information. And then he would finish off by saying, how many general managers of the universe do we have in the audience? Anyone here? Any general manager? I am sometimes, just trying to control everything. And let it go. You can't possibly know everything. So maybe there's a bigger plan afoot. You're always covered. Trust would settle every problem now. Can we flow our boats? Can we kind of relax a little bit? Can we unsqueeze the hose, the garden hose? I wrote a song years ago, and I love the lyrics of the chorus kind of speak to this. It goes like this. In time, we see the working out, and we find that there's peace there. And you've seen this happen. Like, think of some mess you were in 5 years ago. How am I going to get out of this? And after time passes, you realize, that had to happen because that led to this, which led to that. And you kind of see the beauty of the puzzle, right? So what if you took that principle and applied it to whatever mess you're in this week? And just know there's a bigger plan afoot. It's finding its way. I mean, we talk about it all the time, divine order. There's more going on. Now, I don't expect I'm going to say anything new here, but maybe I'll say it in a way that it means more to you or you remember it better. So these are all very, very basic principles you've heard before, but we want to embody them. We want to kind of live from them, remember them in our lives. I have a friend I made at my first Unity church. It was a big church in Houston where I first found Unity. And I got involved in these music production programs that they're putting on. And during a rehearsal once, I was chatting with one of the guys. His name was Springborn. He's one of these one-name people like Madonna, Cher, Springborn. But he was a real Renaissance man. He was into brain research, architecture, theater, painting, music, everything. He just loved to stretch in all different directions. And I remember something he said to me. He said, "Charlie, you know what I love to do?" He says, "I love putting myself out on the leading edge of my ignorance." Isn't that a great line? I love putting myself out on the leading edge of my ignorance. So ignorance isn't stupidity. It's just what we don't know yet, right? So out on the frontier in new territory. I love that. But stretching into, and I'm doing some stretching into new areas too. I'm a homeowner for the first time in my life. I'm learning a lot that I never knew or had to know. But it's stretching. It's exciting. It's like new things. It's like the hero's journey with a hammer and a drill, So, but stretching in a new area takes trust. If you're always doing what you've always done, where's the adventure in that? Where's the stretching? Where's the growth? So it's an invitation. Are you stretching? Is there some idea you've had that feels like a stretch and you haven't gone there yet in your life? Think about what's your next kind of out on the edge of your ignorance stretch. Because there's real growth there. It's exciting. I remember a Science of Mind minister saying, he's from Denver, Fred Vogt. He said, "If you're green, you're growing. If you're ripe, you're rotting." So where can we find the green growing parts of ourselves and not declare, "Oh, we've done it all, we're ripe"? If you're green, you're growing. That's a good one. So another great quote from A Course in Miracles: "I do not have to worry about what to say or what to do, because he who sent me will direct me." I do not have to worry about what to say or what to do, because he who sent me will direct me. And this shows up a lot in our lives. Like, say some friend says, "Hey, I'm in trouble. Can you come over? I need your support." Maybe you get in the car to go over, but what am I going to say? The step number one: show up, be present, and then just be ready for whatever wants to be said through you. I do not have to worry. Trust it will be given. If you show up, that's your first job, and just know there's going to be something shown. Mark Twain had a quote about worry. I don't know if you've heard this one. He said, "I've proven that worrying works. I've proven that worrying works, because pretty much everything I ever worried about never happened." I think there's a little wry humor in there, a little message. One of the trust walks that I've done over the years is booking events. And a process I've gone through is where I'll open up my computer, I have to jump 3, 4 months, 5 or 6 months into the future, you see. And then I'll just sit and kind of tune in, like where am I being called? Where am I being pulled? And I've had it really be almost magical, where I'll kind of lay out this imaginary tour, say 6, 7 months in the future. I'll just type it into on my calendar. I'll start making calls or do emails, and I'll get yes, yes, yes. Like, wow, well, look at that. And it has to be a flow. You fly in to an airport, rent a car, do this kind of circle, get back to the airport, turn in the car. And yes, yes, yes. It's really fun. Like, wow, it's just clicking. But other times I'll tune in, do the whole thing, and I'll get no, 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 no. It's like, okay. So what do you do when you get the no's? And what I'm learning is you just don't know yet. It's not always given. It's not always easy. But just trust that you will know later down the road. Just kind of, sometimes it's let it go. There's a bigger plan afoot. You're always covered. But it's not always easy. It's not always it's not always a Disney movie, Hallmark movie, And that's a process of just letting go, saying, okay, it's not known yet. Just wait and tune in and see what your guidance is next. I have a friend who's a naturopath, and she said something to me once that changed my life. And it's a very simple one-liner. It's really about the physical, but I saw how it kind of applied to the metaphysical. She said, "The body loves circulation. A simple statement. Makes sense when you think about it. The body loves circulation. I was looking at kind of a health challenge at the time, but I took that heart to heart, and I realized, I think I'm going to just start walking every day. Just work up a good sweat, just kind of circulate the juices, flush it out. Such a simple thing, and we get so sedentary sometimes. We just sit at our computers or maybe go for a slow little walk with the dog, but I thought, you know what, I'm going to work up a sweat. And that's 12, 13 years ago, and since that time, I've averaged about 70,000 steps a week. And just kind of got out, and it was just, I just felt myself slowly getting healthier from doing it. And at the time, I weighed about 30 pounds more than I do now. So it just kind of slowly kind of got me healthier and trim and just feeling better. Just flush the system, flush the system. The body loves circulation. So that's great on that level. But I noticed there's another level where our relationships love circulation. They need to be kind of flushed and cleansed and clean and sweated out sometimes too. And I don't know if some of you are like this, but I've noticed I have a history of being kind of a don't rock the boat person in relationships. Well, so this is kind of what happens. Like there might be something that we really should talk about, and I'm trying to, can I just creep around this? And if I just don't mention it, it will go away. Anyone else know that one? No one's holding the hand up. They don't. Yeah, okay. So, and it kind of reminds me, and I hope this isn't too graphic, but when I've had the flu in the past and like this fever, and you'll usually find me in the bathroom hugging the cold tile floor, just trying to cool off a little bit from this fever. And usually when I'm lying there, my body is saying, would you please let me get rid of this stuff in your stomach? Would you please let go of it? And I'm down there thinking, I don't want to go through that. I don't want to taste that in my mouth. I don't want any of that. So can I hang on and get through this? When I would feel so much better if I just let it go. Just get it out. Move on. It's a great parallel. And what I'm thinking happens in relationships, it comes back to trust. And here's what it is. It's like, do I trust that our love is greater than any issue that might come up? Do I trust that our love is greater than any issue that might come up? And that's scary. That can be scary. Trust would settle every problem now. Is love greater than the problem? I hope so. And it's scary. Trust would settle every problem now. I do not have to worry about what to say or what to do. God who sent me will direct me. I want to close with one last thought, and this is from a minister. I heard him speaking when I was the guest music. He's a Science of Mind minister and CSL minister in San Jose named David Bruner. And I love what happened. He stood up at the beginning of his talk, and he said, "Congregation, I have a big confession I have to tell you." So we're all going, oh, what is it? It's going to be juicy. It's going to be gossipy. But it's more just interesting. He said, here's my confession. Every Sunday, I've been giving you the same talk. I've just had to figure out a different way to say it. And he said, if you boil it down, I've always been saying three things. And I love this. He says, everything is God. This includes you. Act accordingly. Isn't that great? Everything is God. This includes you. Act accordingly. Amen. So let's claim it as I statement. So everything is God. This includes me, and I act accordingly. Should we do that? Everything is God. This includes me, and I act accordingly. One more time. Everything is God. This includes me, and I act accordingly. So if we really step into that mindset, if everything is God, this includes me, and I act accordingly, we've actually bypassed even the need for trust, haven't we? Because we've stepped into the mindset where divine order is. We live in divine order, in knowing it, not reaching, hoping, trying to remember it. Living in trust beyond the need for trust, where we can truly flow our boats. Thank you.